Hey, offenders, welcome back. Offend fascism at every turn and fascist at every turn. Be proud to be an offender. Anyhow, great video here. This is a short video I'm going to give you because I'm just pointing you to a video. This is an excellent analysis of this U.S. seizing of the Shadow Fleet supertanker off of Venezuela. And, it's being used as a political football right now. This is not the way that you criticize the Trump administration related to this tanker. The most egregious thing is just how they had guys swinging down from ropes off of helicopters for dramatic effect, which is ridiculous and a misuse of the military. Actually, this guy describes it's the Coast Guard. Everything was on the legitimate and the up and up in regards to this, in regard to the law. So this was not illegal. It was not piracy, as some Trump critics are claiming. I'm a Trump critic too. I'm any politician critic, be it Biden, Trump, Clinton, George W. Bush, you name it. I'm an equal opportunity critic of all politicians and politics. So I share the criticisms of Trump, but it's not just Trump. Anyway, this is not where you need to focus, okay, at all. Folks, Donald Trump's administration, Donald Trump is not going to invade Venezuela. They're not. They're not set up for an invasion. It's not going to happen. They're applying pressure to Venezuela. And they're trying to break Venezuela. And they think that by doing this, that they'll get regime change. I think that's foolhardy. I don't think they're going to get regime change. Even if they do get regime change and Maduro gets out, there's going to be a civil war in this country. And the Chavez faction, which is the significant majority of the unwashed in Venezuela, are going to take up arms against the new power that's been foisted into place in Venezuela. And you're going to get a protracted civil war. And it's going to be devastating on their population. There's going to be lots of suffering as a result. That's what I take umbrage with. Unnecessary suffering. So for all those people who took umbrage with Madeleine Albright and her support of the sanctioning of Iraq and all the deaths that resulted from that, same thing here. There's going to be many deaths that result from this if this is the strategy, and I think it is the strategy. So this guy explains this isn't going to be the only supertanker related to Venezuela, of the Shadow Fleet that's ferrying sanctioned oil. It's not going to be the only one seized, guaranteed. There's going to be a number of other ones. What they're trying to do is increase the cost of business for anybody trying to do business with Venezuela so that it further breaks the Maduro regime. This is all foolhardy and it's BS. And Trump's just doing it because he's been convinced he can flex his muscles this way and look good. But Trump's not interested in a long, protracted battle in Venezuela. It would never work, for starters. So there's not going to really be boots on the ground, per se, in Venezuela. You're just going to see a lot of this stuff. Posturing, having a military presence there, but not one set up for an invasion of any degree whatsoever. Anyway, this chart right here is important. This shows all the Shadow Fleet supertankers out there ferrying sanctioned oil all around. The lion's share of it is Russia. This is another point I want to make. Donald Trump's a coward. He's a traitor. He's a treasonous traitor. He's a narcissist. He's a coward. It's just pure evil, okay, in every way. In every way, he's pure evil. He's not, he's not engaging in machismo against Russia, a true opponent. He has every right to go and grab and seize these illegal Shadow Fleet supertankers delivering illegal cargo. It's all being tracked. They know where it is. They're watching. That's another thing about sanctions, right? What good are they if you don't have any enforcement mechanism for them? All this illegal trade is occurring, meaning that despite sanctions, it's still going on using Shadow Fleet tankers that aren't, directly Russian, but indirectly they are. The European Union knows this. America knows this. Trump knows this. They're not seizing any of these supertankers like they did Venezuela. Why? Well, because Trump's a coward. And he's a bully. The American military are cowards. They're bullies. They are. They're cowards and bullies. They only pick on weaklings. They're not interested in a real fight. You're never going to see the American military fighting China or fighting Russia. They're not interested in those real fights anymore. Every fight post-World War II has been a bully fight. America has been the dominant country in the fight. They knew that the country that they're going after couldn't stand up against them. Now, yeah, granted, people say, well, they lost the war. They didn't really lose any of these wars. They just didn't win them. The objectives were completely different than World War II. But not winning doesn't mean losing either. And especially if the objective was to just justify an expansive military budget, which I think most of these wars end up being, or other unmentionable objectives that we'll never know about. Anyway, America's military are as much cowards as Donald Trump is. They're not going to go for the real fight. They never want to go. They don't want to go for a real fight. Okay, because a real fight would mean that we seized all these tankers. And you don't see that happening, do you? No. Because Venezuela is an easy target in that regard. America knows, it's like taking candy from a baby. Swooping down on that super tanker is like taking candy from a baby. You saw there's no resistance. Yet they engage in bravado and, slide down their ropes from the helicopters. This guy mentions that there's landing platforms on those super tankers. They could have just landed on the platform and then, got off the helicopter and gone from that. But no, they had to do it for dramatic effect for the orange Jabba the Hutt in the Oval Office. He wanted to see them. He told them, I want to see them slide down the ropes from the helicopter. I want to see our show of force. I'm not kidding you. I think that's why they did it. For Donald Trump, so he could get his jollies. He's a coward. He's a pussy. Donald Trump is a rich, born with a silver spoon in his mouth pussy who evaded the draft. And these pussies in the military, and you are pussies. You're pussies in the military. All you generals and admirals, you are cowardly pusses. All right? And he's made you look like what you really are, cowards and pussies. As he tells you to do this and that, and you do it like the dogs that you are. Trained, obedient dogs that you are. You're pussies and you're cowards. And he's showing you to be that. You couldn't win a real fight if your life depended on it. And unfortunately, your lives never depend on any of this, does it? You're grifters just like everybody else. The admirals and generals are grifters just like everybody else. They're not interested in anything called principles. They're in it for their own self-aggrandizement. Anyway, this is a great, great analysis, and don't get caught up in this facet of the criticism of Donald Trump and Venezuela and his Venezuelan policy or policy in regard to Venezuela. This is not the part you want to run with. This was not piracy. This was all legal. Done for dramatic effect, absolutely. It's part of a strategy, but it's all legal and on the up and up. And if he was a real man, and wasn't such a coward, he would do that to all the Russian Shadow Fleet oil tankers, ferrying illegal oil to illegal countries that are sanctioned. But he doesn't do that. He's a coward. So anyway, thought I'd make it real. That's it for now, offenders. Take care, everybody. Bye.